Hello, everybody. So just a heads up, I am trying a completely new setup today. So give me a minute, but I will play a little bit of music. Sorry about that. Hmm, there we go. Alrighty, so this is a completely new setup. This is actually my drawing table. So this is how I normally make things. It's a very tilted drafting table, which will save your back if you still have a back. That being said, it's a brand new mic, camera, etc. So it's a whole new setup. So let me know what you hear, what you don't, what you see, what you don't. But today, I'm going to be working on this. So this is a some concept art for a story that I would like to do eventually. It's kind of a I don't even know how to describe it just yet. Think of this as concept art. So I'm still kind of coming up with the idea, the setting, the characters. So what I do is I just I just I just put them as finished pieces together, and then that helps write the story. So if I just kept these as sketches, sometimes it's a little harder to nail down the characters. But if I do like a finished piece like this, it's just easier to see it as a finished thing. And I'll start to make connections between this character and that character and this weird symbol and this weird stuff on his head or whatever. So anyway, that's what I'm working on today. So you might see me stretch for things that I don't have access to currently. I try to shrink my head as much as possible because nobody wants to see my big face. Hey Ernest, how's it going? Seems everyone is using new setups lately. It's actually like the eternal struggle is a setup. um, just when you think you have it, and it can be there forever. And if you just need it, you flip a switch, and the setup is there. It's rare that that happens. Something comes up, and you need to change it. Like right now, I need to get some water on my brush. So taking a dry brush into ink is almost always a bad idea. You just need a little bit of water, at least run it through, wipe it off with a towel before you actually start inking. So I will be back in 1 minute. Okay, that wasn't a minute. That was, I'm saying like 19 seconds. Adam Hamill, hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm early. Yeah, I was actually a little late. So it's funny because if you saw my desk, which maybe I'll take a photograph of it, I have I have like an arm of a camera, I have an arm for the mic, I have an arm for my iPhone camera. It's like I'm in the center of some sort of technological torture device. Is kind of what it looks like. It's not the most relaxing place to be. It's like I'm being interrogated. It's like a scene out of a Clockwork Orange or something. But inking and drawing at my drawing table is infinitely better. And what I think I'll be doing is, now that I have this set up in theory, I will ink on stream. I would like to ink the entire issue 4 of Horace H. Hoover. So you can see from the beginning, every single page, every single panel being inked for the most part. I mean, there are times where that might not be possible, but and if I can't stream it, I'll definitely record it so you can see the entire issue. I know for me, that's a big help. Seeing something from its initial phase all the way to the end. Is the music too loud? Somebody was complaining about the music before, and it's hard to tell on my end. Hey, Ara, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Let's see, what did I say I was talking about today? I was at a convention recently, so that was an interesting experience. Conventions can vary in their in their convenience, success, all of the above. Might as well start. So the convention I went to was the Helltown New Dimension Comics convention. It was about 30 minutes from where I'm at. I can't think of where. I think it was in Houston, PA or something. It's just a real small town south of Pittsburgh. And it was a really small convention. It was, man, I don't know, maybe 20 vendors, something like that. It was actually a pretty cool location. So they sort of had a back area where I don't know what they did there originally, but I saw some tables that they had moved. So they do things in this sort of back, but it's got a concrete floor and high ceilings, industrial sort of stuff. So it does actually, it is pretty conducive for a convention. The good thing is there wasn't a table fee, which that's always prohibitive. You know, if you're gonna drive 5 hours or even fly, stay at a hotel, and then pay, you know, $300-400 for a table, that can get dicey on whether or not you're actually going to make some money. Now, my take on conventions might be a little different than other people. I don't think you really need to like make a profit for conventions. I think this is a longer topic, but I think those days are kind of over. I'm not saying people can't make money or anything like that, but I'm saying that it's almost like conventions are merely marketing now. And I try to view it as just that. So that means, you know, if I go to a convention, Three Rivers or something like that, and I know that 5,000 people are going to be going through the convention center all weekend, I know at minimum 5,000 people are going to see Horace H. Hoover. That definitely doesn't mean that 5,000 people are going to be stopping at my table. But they are, in general, the target market. You know, they collect comics or toys or at least interested in something tangentially related. They will see my table. It's inevitable for a few reasons. One is the Horace H. Hoover branding's pretty big and pretty bright, so it kind of sticks out compared to all of the other tables generally. I have reds and yellows, and I really go kind of big with the branding. So at minimum, I know these people will see Horace H. Hoover. And you know, it's like any other kind of advertising. It's maybe the first time you see it, you don't do anything. And then the next time you see it again, you're like, oh, that's right. I saw Horace H. Hoover at this other show. And then finally, the third time, you're like, you know what? I'll stop and I'll take a look at it. So, you know, I kind of look at it as just marketing right now. That being said, this particular convention, let me check chat, sorry. Adam, no, I usually come into your live later in the broadcast. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, and I haven't been streaming that much recently, but I need to get back into the Saturday afternoon sleep stream, as I like to call it. Ernest, that's a good way to look at conventions now. They really have turned into cosplay cons. Yeah, there's really no way around that. And I mean, I know that. It's one of those deals where rationally, I know that conventions have changed since when I used to go to them a long time ago. And I know that, but part of me just hopes the one time that I go to one and people kind of, I don't know, that it's not necessarily the con, but it's the people that go to the conventions. They are the same people that used to go to the other ones, if that makes any sense. So this is kind of how I look at it. When I was going to conventions a very, very long time ago, comics were still very much, I don't want to say underground, but yeah, I mean, they weren't really mainstream. And when you went to a convention, you were really looking for that cool, new, independent, potentially superhero or series or something. I think that sort of mindset has definitely, I don't want to say it's gone, but it's very different. I really don't think people think in those terms anymore. A lot of people that you see are really just looking for the latest Batman and Superman stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I like Batman and I like Superman, but the view of independent comics, I think, has definitely changed a little bit. So even if you get a cool con, and even if the convention is geared towards comics, it's hard not to notice the shift in the actual consumer base that is interested in other things. So all of that to say, it was a okay convention for me. It was okay. The other thing that's cool about conventions is the people that you meet. You know, the other people, tables, occasionally people that come up and talk to you. That's cool. Generally, people are a little more shy than you would think at these conventions. So, but people at other tables, you know, you meet other artists and writers. You get to, you know, you get to hear about conventions that they did well at, or they, you know, they never do this conventions because it caters to movies too much or something like that. So this particular convention, I did meet a couple of people, but even then, it wasn't really much. It was only a 1 day convention, so it was 12 to 5, so 5 hours, 1 day. You know, you really don't even have time to like meet a lot of other people, other artists, and other comic creators. And it's not just comic book creators, obviously, but they were the majority. So even that was a little rough. The funny thing is, they passed around essentially a big board of essentially it was supposed to be a present for, I think, the owner of Helltown Brewery. So all of the artists would essentially just add a little character or something to the big board, and that would be presented to the owner later on. Unfortunately, it didn't seem like that many people got around to it. And by the time I got it, you know, I had 10 minutes to just in marker put something on this big board. So I'm like, okay, I'll put Horace H. Hoover on here. You know, I can't even draw it. I have to go straight to marker. And I just did like a Horace H. Hoover. He's got his hands on his hips, kind of classic pose. And I'm like, well, he has to say something. And very quickly, I just put the speech balloon, and I just put the effluvium, which is one of my favorite words, effluvium. Essentially, I mean, it's basically smell, like a noxious smell. Um, I just wanted to do, a classic Horace H. Hoover comment. And then I realized later on, if you give that to the person and they actually Google effluvium, I think they might think I'm making fun of the place, like it smelled. So I don't know how that went over. I'm sure I'll never find out. The place didn't smell. It's actually a pretty cool place. I would probably go back to it. What else? So the people that put on that convention do Three Rivers in Pittsburgh, which I did do last year, which I actually already paid for. I might bail on that though. It's 2 days long. I don't know if I'll have much success there. Um, Part of me wants to just spend every last moment to finish up issues 4 and 5 of Horace H. Hoover. And then once those are done and printed, I can kind of do the circuits again for conventions. So I will keep people posted on that for anybody that's in the Pittsburgh area. Because I'm working on the last 5 pages, pencils, of issue 4 of Horace H. Hoover. So I'm at that last scene. I should be able to finish that up by the end of this month. And then I'll be switching to inking. Which inking is definitely, I'm not going to call it easy, but like once you draw the pages, you've already sort of taken the problem solving out. And it's just execution at that point. Now, that doesn't mean the execution can't go awry. You can put a wrong line down or two, and then things go bad. But it's definitely the downward slope of the project. So like this character right here that you just answered my question without looking at it. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, so like this, getting back to this image, again, these are just concept art that I wanted to finish, and it's in these little details. It essentially forces you to answer things. At first I was like, what is this on her head? Is it like a growth of like chitinous, like hard-shelled things, or is it an actual kind of crown, but it's just an organic sort of crown? And I think I'm at organic crown that she sort of wears on top. And then what I'll do is whenever I sit down and actually write this, that's just one more thing that I already know about this character. Yeah, so I have been thinking a lot about the status of Horace Chuver and issue 4 and 5 and all of that. And I have really, like, the last 10 pages, when I was writing the priority was in the writing. This is the wrap up for the big arc. And, whenever you're writing, you're not necessarily thinking about what you have to draw, but the number of locations and cityscapes and interiors and an old church, like all of these locations really start to stack as far as what you need to do. And I really kind of hurt myself. I mean, the story necessitated it, so I couldn't have done it any other way, but it really it like slowed me to a crawl, basically. Um, but these last 5 pages were sort of out of that part of it, and the drawing should go pretty quick. And then issue 5 is going to be a one-off. It's going to be a one-off, so the past couple of issues, I've really let them kind of balloon up in pages, 36 pages, 37, which is definitely bigger than a regular size comic book. Issue 5, I think I'm going to really try to keep it to 22, 24 pages. I really need to get in the habit of sticking to that length. So, that being said, I'm still hoping by the end of the year, issues 4 and 5 just will be done completely. Maybe there's a Kickstarter by the end of the year for issue 5. Then I'll do a collected on Amazon. And Horace H. Hoover will be... I mean, I'm going to be doing Horace H. Hoover books for a long, long time, but I'm definitely going to be doing some other stories in the meantime. So I have a couple other stories I want to work on. What I'll try to do is basically once a year, I'll release something. So maybe it's Horace H. Hoover, maybe it's this other story, but that's the goal. That was a bit much. Hey, Yang, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. I do enjoy your questions on Twitter. I don't really get to respond to them often because I don't know the answers, or I really have to think about them. But questions about latest adventure, like a funny thing that happened during an adventure or something like that. Those are a lot of fun. I don't know if... Oh yeah, I did. I still want to use that Mythic game emulator. And I know I've mentioned it to a few different people, and some people use it for writing. And I've never really had much of a problem writing, but I thought it would be fun. Just something different. Just, pick a character or two, pick a setting, and then use that emulator and see kind of what happens. Oh, geez, sorry, Ang. Yeah, a lot of people do have the flu right now. A lot. The other thing I don't know why I thought this was really interesting is I just watched a documentary, which, if you know me, the phrase "I just watched a documentary" is actually banned unless it ends with about Dracula fighting Bigfoot. But this particular documentary was about John Milius. And if you're unfamiliar, he has written and directed a few of some of the like best movies from the 70s and 80s. He wrote Apocalypse Now. He wrote and directed Red Dawn, which is absolutely one of my favorite movies. A formative movie, I would say, for a lot of people of my generation. Is there a documentary? No, there isn't. But that's why I'm like, okay, anytime I'm in a conversation and somebody says, I just watched a documentary, my eyes just roll into the back of my head. Um, just because, I don't know, with YouTube, or not YouTube, with like Hulu and all of these places, they just crank out these pseudo documentary kind of, I don't even know what to call them. I really dislike them. But I'm sure I've ranted about that before. Basically, all they do is just get somebody and they have them talk in front of some books, and then that's it. There's like, why wouldn't I believe that person? They're standing in front of a whole slew of books. Documentary is a loose term nowadays. Yeah. Yep. Any sort of implied standards for documentaries were abandoned a long time ago. So, but it was pretty interesting. John Milius was palling around with Spielberg and Lucas and Francis Ford, or not Francis Ford Coppola, Scorsese, all those guys. And I guess I didn't know that about him. Um, I knew very little about him. There's all these stories about him bringing guns to like um, any sort of, I don't know, meetings that he thought that he needed to intimidate people. Um, he just walked. He was a larger than life character, we'll say. It's pretty interesting. He definitely seems like the guy that wrote Red Dawn. Let me put it that way. Some people always picked who they were in the Breakfast Club. Maybe I'm stretching here, but right, because they were these stereotypes, not stereotypes, but um, you know, very caricatured personality types in high school. But I always would rather, or I always thought, like, who would I be in Red Dawn? You know, I always thought that was a far more important question to ask. And I always thought I would be Emilio Estevez. Admittedly, he's the one that kind of loses it and gets a little too into it. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I have to be honest. I think I'm Emilio Estevez in that, or not Emilio Estevez. Jeez, Ponyboy. Somebody help me out on that. Ponyboy. That's Hal C. Thomas C. Hal, right? Something like that. No, not Patrick. Oh, you would be Patrick Swayze? Yeah, I'm thinking of the Wolverines guy. He yells Wolverines. He's got the AK, I think. Um, yeah, C. Thomas Howell, right? Got to be him. Something like that. Pony Boy. You can tell I'm Gen X because I just referenced Red Dawn, The Outsiders, And on top of it, I couldn't remember a name. So that's how you really know I'm Gen X? Oh, that's not good. I was just splattering ink on my MacBook Pro, which is currently recording me. That's never good. Yeah, what else did John Milius do? He did Rome for HBO, which was a great show. I think he wrote that. I don't know if he directed that or not. Anyway, I recommend it if you're into that kind of stuff. He directed Conan the Barbarian. I think he wrote it with Oliver Stone. Conan, yeah, yeah. Wasn't that C. Thomas Howell? Am I totally losing it? Right? It's Pony Boy that I would Google it, but all of my devices are currently pointed at me. All right, so this guy. Yeah, it sounded like that John Milius was really blacklisted after Red Dawn. They thought he, went too far. It was too violent and too, anti-communist, which is weird. Why would Hollywood care about that? Um, yeah. So it looked like after Red Dawn that he had a hard time. Definitely directing. I guess he would do rewrites and stuff for screenplays, but sounded like his directing was almost over for I don't know how many years. Okay, see Thomas Howell. You can't be too anti-communist. No, you definitely can't. It's funny because, back then, obviously as a kid, I was 10 years old when that came out, probably. So it probably started, it comes out on HBO, right? And we watch it 1,000 times after that. So it just becomes a pretty big part of pop culture at that point. But I had no idea that there was any blowback from it. No internet. But I guess some people were really paying attention, and that was it for them. Alrighty, let's see. I've been neglecting this part. The other thing too that's kind of fun about this is using a brush, you can be really kind of loose with it, and then it's kind of like whatever your mind essentially thinks it is ends up being what it is. So if I don't know what this, I'm not going to call him a pig man. He's like a mutant punk rocker, maybe. Maybe a little too Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know. Rocksteady and Bebop or whatever. Also, putting everybody in just clothes ends up being pretty boring. So armor or just a weird getup, I think visually is important. What else is going on? As far as comics are concerned, I did see Rob Liefeld getting snubbed at Deadpool and Wolverine, which let's just say my views of Deadpool notwithstanding, I think the fact that they would snub Rob Liefeld in 2025 with social media is kind of crazy. I mean, he created the character with Fabian Cienza or whatever. Yeah, and it was a very purposeful snub because I actually listened to Rob's podcast about it, so he kind of goes into detail, and it's pretty crazy. After all of the bad press for, giving creators short shrift, it seems wild that Marvel would do that, or yeah, Marvel. And then he cut ties with Marvel because of it, which is, again, my view of Rob Liefeld notwithstanding. I think it's kind of crazy because Rob Liefeld is still really popular, despite everything. People really still love him and his artwork. So we'll see what that means. Part of me, and this is just me talking, I think Ryan Reynolds is like a bit of a weirdo, and I almost feel like he's taken over Deadpool, and he feels like it's his character now, and maybe that's why. There's definitely been some stories from other people on Deadpool. I can't think of that one comedian. He kind of said that Ryan Reynolds flipped out on him, and he wouldn't work with him anymore. So who knows? It's definitely strange. I'm surprised there hasn't been more blowback, but maybe that is coming. It makes sense to me. Current day Marvel is jealous. He's an actor, of course he's a weirdo. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean Marvel feels, I think they know. They can try to deny it all they want, but they haven't been able to create anything lasting or popular. The movies are making less money. I just feel like they see the writing on the wall, so I don't know. Any recognition of somebody from the past that actually did something that was popular, they probably just want to ignore that completely. So my brush is really getting crusty here, which is usually when I shut it down. Shut it down. Not too crusty to do some clouds, though. Yeah, it will be nice to do something a little different than Horace H. Hoover, a little more. The book I want to do is like a dark fantasy. I'm pretty excited about it. And I know when it's time to work on something whenever I said to myself, okay, I have an idea for a story, but I don't have time to do it now. I'll write down these few notes and then it'll be something that I consciously don't think of. Because if you consciously just daydream and mull over something, you'll come up with ideas and you'll figure out settings and scenarios and scenes. And I think that's inevitable. I know some people have problems writing, but I don't know about that. Anyway, so for this particular story, this dark fantasy horror, we'll say, I was just driving to work one day and I have a sizable commute. And in the span of like a half hour, I just kept on getting these pretty powerful, like dramatic scenes in my head of the characters and what they're doing. And as soon as that happened, I said, "Oh man!" Like it made its way to the forefront, even though I didn't want it to. Which I think you should listen to that. It doesn't mean you drop what you're doing and switch projects, because I think that's what a lot of people do. Because I think at that point, then you'll never get anything done. But having that queued up, we'll say, for whenever I finish Horace H. Hoover will be nice. Like I know exactly what I'll be working on. I can do some concept art in the meantime. I can do some research because it's fantasy, but I still want to have some sort of historical grounding ish, we'll say. All right, it's 3:48. I might be bailing here in a minute or so. Ernest, they have writers who have never opened a comic and have no respect for characters and story history. Yeah, like literally that. I kind of make fun of this, but some people just saw the cartoon from the 90s and they think that then they want to write comics. And I don't want to dissuade people from writing comics, but I really think to do something well, you need to consume a ton, at minimum, a ton of that medium with other. So I'm a huge comic book fan. I've also read a bunch of books and other things. And I think all of that stuff combined gives you a better sense of how to tell a story. I think if you're just looking at comic books or if you're just looking at a cartoon from the 90s and trying to essentially infer good storytelling, I think you're toast. I think it's going to come off as insincere. I think the characters are going to be super flat and just overall dead. I mean, you'll have like a typical bad 90s comic, we'll say. Now, that being said, I mean, there were still good comics in the 90s, but they might not be where you think they were. Alrighty, well, this is fun. If you are new to me or the channel, I write, color, letter, draw, ink, advertise, and sell Horace H. Hoover. He's an occult detective set in 1920s New York, investigates sort of supernatural mysteries and takes all manner of strange cases. Those 3 books are available at horacehoover.com. And there is a collected version available on Amazon, Volume 1, minus that thing there, which is all 3 issues. All 3 issues collected. on Amazon. This is great for, I mean, if you want to save on shipping, if you're out of the country, you know, there's a lot of good reasons to get that. Some people like the floppy, some people like the collected. I like them both, so it depends. Yeah, I think that's it. Is issue 4 coming? So issue 4, I'm still finishing up the pencils. I'm in the last like 3 to 5 pages. I kind of work on a few at the same time. So end of February, pencils will be done for sure, and then I'll start inking, and then I'll ink and letter at the same time. So if let me see here. So end of February, inking will probably take me a month and a half to 2 months. So we're talking March, April. And then maybe May to color and letter and do all that stuff. It would be nice to get this out by June. We'll see though. We'll see. I will do my hardest to get this out in June, because then issue 5 will start immediately in July, and then that'll be done by the end of the year. Yeah, but I'll let everybody know. It's still slow going. I'm going to be streaming, since this is my drafting table. I can stream a lot more from this. It's just a lot easier. So I might even start drawing some pages and streaming those if anybody is interested. Drawing is a bit more, I mean, I'll have a few pages to do. There's a lot of erasing and redoing and going back. I think it's less fulfilling to see. It doesn't really, you don't really see things come to life, but if people are interested in the process, if they have questions on how to draw stuff, I think that might be interesting. Wasn't there a mention of peanut butter? Oh, yeah, I did mention peanut butter allergies. I don't have them. That's what I was gonna. That's all I was gonna say about peanut butter allergies. Yang, let's see the drawing. Okay, cool. Yeah, then maybe I'll do that maybe during the week or something, and then on weekends I'll start inking everything. All right. Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining. I appreciate it. I will be posting on Twitter vague, obnoxious things like I always do, and I will see you later on. Thanks a lot, everybody.